The young and the restless spoilers shock, Tracy had always envisioned a life where she and Alan would be inseparable, a future filled with shared dreams and unyielding commitment. More than anything, she craved the sanctity of marriage with him, a union that would finally bind their destinies. However, as the days passed, an unsettling series of events forced her to shelve that vision. Deep inside, a storm of doubts and suspicions began to brew, clouding her once clear path toward love. It all started on an ordinary afternoon when Tracy, lost in thoughts of their future, noticed an anomaly in Alan's phone. Amidst the familiar pictures of tender moments and hopeful hospital notifications, there lay images that were eerily identical to the ones recounted by Nick and Sharon, a couple whose narrative had taken a dark, unexpected turn. These photos, along with the alarming messages that pinged through the phone's notification bar, painted a picture that was far removed from the life Tracy had imagined with Alan. Unsure of what to make of these revelations, Tracy reached out to Jack, a man known for his logical mind and a deep sense of responsibility. She arranged an urgent meeting with him and several others who had also been privy to snippets of this perplexing puzzle. In the dim light of a secluded conference room, the group gathered, each carrying a burden of secrets and unanswered questions. The atmosphere was thick with tension as they began to piece together the fragments of information that had come to light. Jack, whose usually composed demeanor was now marred by worry, took a deep breath and started laying out the chain of evidence. It appears that Alan's actions and the records on his phone do not align with the story we've been told, he said, his voice a mixture of concern and determination. He recounted how the photos and hospital notifications mirrored those reported by Nick and Sharon, a revelation that suggested a disturbing possibility. Alan might not be who he claimed to be. The group was divided between two possibilities. Could Alan be the mastermind behind the kidnapping, or was he somehow an unwitting accomplice to a more nefarious plot? The question loomed large, and every new detail added layers to the mystery. Tracy's heart was torn in two. On one hand, she clung to the hope of a shared future with Alan, a future where the vows of marriage could sanctify their love. On the other hand, the evidence was mounting, and the possibility that Alan might be involved in something so sinister was too terrifying to ignore. Her voice trembled as she recounted the strange coincidences. The hospital notifications on his phone, they match exactly what Nick and Sharon described, she whispered, almost in disbelief. Every word hung heavy in the room, casting long shadows over what had once been a simple, loving relationship. Jack, ever the voice of reason in the chaos, urged calm. We need to analyze every bit of evidence methodically, he insisted, though his eyes betrayed the deep worry that lay beneath his calm exterior. Despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm him, Jack knew that maintaining clarity was paramount. If they were to uncover the truth about Alan, or whoever he might truly be, they had to set aside their emotions and focus on the facts. The investigation took an even more challenging turn when the group learned that capturing Alan would not be as straightforward as they had hoped. Alan had vanished, escaping to Paris, a city that now symbolized both his elusive charm and his dangerous unpredictability. His disappearance only deepened the mystery, as he refused to meet anyone or offer any explanation for his sudden flight. His choice of refuge in a foreign city, with its labyrinthine streets and unpredictable rhythms, only served to fuel suspicions that he was trying to hide something monumental. Meanwhile, the tension between what was known and what was believed began to escalate. While the group tried to piece together the puzzle, Alan remained blissfully unaware of the storm that was gathering around him. He had no inkling that his every move was being scrutinized, that his past actions were being re-examined under the harsh light of suspicion. For him, life in Paris was a temporary respite, a chance to disappear into the anonymity of a bustling metropolis while the investigators pieced together the puzzle of his double life. Jack's mind, however, was fraught with an even more alarming possibility. During the long nights filled with relentless debate and countless re-examinations of the evidence, a chilling thought began to surface. What if Alan was not Alan at all, but Martin, a figure long rumored to be involved in deceptive and dangerous schemes? Jack's gut told him that the man he had trusted might be a master of disguise, using the face of Alan to mislead everyone around him. The fear of this possibility drove Jack to the brink of panic, but he knew that succumbing to terror was not an option. "We must act swiftly and decisively," he declared, his voice firm even as his heart raced with uncertainty. The possibility of Alan being Martin introduced a labyrinth of complications. If true, it would mean that every moment shared, every whispered promise, had been part of an elaborate web of deceit. Jack knew that time was of the essence. The longer they waited, the more difficult it would become to capture the elusive fugitive. Every minute spent debating was a minute lost, a minute during which their adversary could be slipping further away into the shadows of Paris. As the night deepened, the group decided to mobilize their resources. Plans were set into motion to collaborate with international authorities, tracing the digital footprints Alan, or Martin, had left behind. The operation was not just about apprehending a man, but about unearthing the truth behind the carefully constructed facade. Jack took charge of coordinating the efforts, even as the overwhelming pressure of the situation weighed heavily on him. "I know this is overwhelming, but we must remain vigilant," he reminded everyone, urging his colleagues to keep their emotions in check and their minds sharp. Back in Paris, Alan, whether he was the man the world believed him to be or the notorious Martin in disguise, continued his charade. The city, with its timeless charm and unpredictable undercurrents, became the stage for a dangerous game of cat and mouse. Every step he took, every decision he made, was a calculated move in a larger, more sinister game. Yet, amidst the backdrop of Parisian streets and bustling cafes, a lingering sense of foreboding began to emerge. The intricate puzzle of his identity was drawing ever closer to a resolution that promised to unveil secrets that could shatter lives. For Tracy, the internal battle was the most painful of all. Every day was a struggle between the yearning for a future with Alan and the harsh reality of the evidence pointing to a betrayal so deep it cut to the very core of her being. In moments of quiet reflection, she found herself haunted by the possibility that the man she loved was not capable of the tenderness she had always believed in, but rather was a cunning deceiver who had led her down a path of heartbreak and danger. As the investigation gained momentum, a palpable tension gripped everyone involved. The impending confrontation with Alan, or Martin, was not just a physical pursuit, it was an emotional reckoning for all those who had been entangled in his web of lies. Jack's determination to uncover the truth, despite his mounting fears, served as a beacon of hope in the murky waters of deception. His words resonated with the group: "We must not let fear paralyze us. Instead, let it sharpen our resolve to get to the truth, no matter how painful it may be." In the coming days, as the international manhunt intensified and Paris became the center of a high-stakes investigation, the lines between ally and enemy, truth and deception, began to blur. Every revelation brought them closer to an answer, yet also raised more questions. The stakes were high, and failure was not an option. For Jack, for Tracy, and for everyone involved, the search for the truth was a journey fraught with peril, a journey where every step could either lead to salvation or seal their fate. Thus, in the heart of this labyrinthine mystery, amid whispers of betrayal and the looming specter of danger, the group steeled themselves for the inevitable confrontation. They knew that the truth about Alan, or Martin, would not just redefine their understanding of loyalty and love, it would redefine their very lives. And as the final pieces of the puzzle slowly fell into place, one thing became abundantly clear: the journey to uncover the truth was only just beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. Tracy had once dreamed of a future marked by romance and certainty, a future sealed with a wedding that would have bound her to a man she loved. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Now, with a heavy heart and steely resolve, she had abandoned the notion of marrying Martin. No longer willing to let her life be defined by false promises and dangerous liaisons, Tracy knew that the time to stop him was fast approaching. His actions, brutal, calculated, and utterly horrifying, could no longer go unpunished. The man they now hunted was not just a murderer, he was a master of disguise, a chameleon who had stolen another's identity to hide his malevolent deeds. Rumors and whispers had swirled for months, but the truth could no longer be obscured by deception. Martin had been orchestrating a series of events that left a trail of devastation in his wake. Each step he took was a testament to his cold-blooded nature. A murderer who had kidnapped innocent souls and manipulated those who had once trusted him. Phyllis and Sharon, whose lives had been upended by his heinous acts, had finally pieced together the shocking reality. The person responsible for their abduction was none other than Martin. The revelation had ignited a fierce fire of vengeance within them. Their pain had turned to anger, and now their shared mission was clear: they would make Martin pay, regardless of the cost. Yet, as the pieces of this intricate puzzle began to align, new questions emerged. How could they possibly bring this elusive villain back to Genoa, the place where justice and resolution awaited? And, perhaps more chillingly, did Martin have allies lurking in the shadows, ready to protect him from the consequences of his actions? The investigation had taken on an international dimension. Genoa City, a name once synonymous with small-town intrigue, had transformed into a battleground where loyalties were tested, and every secret threatened to unravel the lives of those caught in its wake. Tracy, Phyllis, Sharon, and their small but determined band of allies had dedicated every resource at their disposal to tracking Martin. The digital footprints he left behind in Paris had led them to a labyrinth of encrypted messages and suspicious transactions, hinting at the existence of a larger network. It was as if Martin was not acting alone but was part of a wider conspiracy, one that reached far beyond the narrow confines of his assumed identity. Jack, whose analytical mind had once been the glue holding their disparate pieces of evidence together, now found himself burdened with the weight of imminent danger. He tirelessly cross-referenced every piece of data, every grain of digital residue, in hopes of exposing any link that would confirm the presence of an accomplice. "We must be methodical," he repeatedly reminded the group, knowing that any misstep could allow Martin and his hidden allies to vanish into the night once more. His voice, steady yet edged with urgency, rallied everyone to remain vigilant. Fear was a luxury they could not afford. Clarity and precision were their only weapons. In the quiet hours before dawn, Tracy spent sleepless nights poring over old photographs, hospital notifications, and fragmented messages on Alan's, now Martin's, phone. Every image, every word, held the potential to expose another layer of the grim reality that had taken root in their lives. The evidence was as damning as it was consistent: the hospital alerts, the strange rendezvous points, and the clandestine communications were all pieces of a sinister jigsaw puzzle. These pieces painted a portrait of a man who was willing to sacrifice lives for his own twisted sense of control. Yet even as their plans to corner Martin solidified, the team faced a daunting logistical challenge. Martin had vanished into the maze of Parisian streets, a city as enigmatic as the man himself. His disappearance was not an act of cowardice but a calculated maneuver designed to exploit the city's labyrinthine nature. In Paris, he moved with the ease of a ghost, blending seamlessly with the crowd and leaving behind no trace. To capture him, the team needed not only to understand his patterns but also to anticipate the moves of any potential allies who might be shielding him from retribution. One rainy evening, as the group gathered in a discreet safe house on the outskirts of Genoa City, the conversation took on an urgent, conspiratorial tone. Phyllis, her eyes blazing with resolve, declared, "Martin's reign of terror ends now. He may have hidden behind the mask of another identity, but we have seen through his lies. We will bring him back to Genoa and ensure he faces the full weight of justice." Sharon, usually the more reserved of the pair, nodded in agreement. "Every minute we delay gives him a chance to strengthen his network. We need a plan that's as ruthless as he is," she added. The strategy they devised was bold and fraught with risk. It involved coordinating with international law enforcement, leveraging every technological asset available, and, most importantly, preparing for a confrontation that would test the limits of their courage. Jack's role was to orchestrate the digital hunt, tracking every online breadcrumb Martin left behind. Tracy, despite the heartbreak of lost dreams, channeled her inner strength into ensuring that this time, the wrongs of the past would be righted. The team knew that Martin's fall would not only serve as retribution for his crimes but also as a warning to anyone who dared to manipulate truth for personal gain. As the final days of Martin's freedom dwindled, a palpable tension gripped everyone involved. The air was thick with anticipation, a mixture of dread and determination. The question that loomed over their every discussion was not just how to capture him, but also whether he had any allies, hidden figures who might still be pulling strings from the background. Every encrypted file and every coded message was scrutinized for clues about these possible accomplices. Despite the enormity of the task, the resolve within the group was unyielding. The mission was clear: bring Martin back to Genoa, expose the dark underbelly of his criminal network, and deliver justice for all the lives he had shattered. The storyline that had once revolved around romance and mistaken identity had transformed into a relentless pursuit of truth and retribution, a pursuit that promised to bring an end to Martin's reign of terror once and for all. In the days that followed, as international teams prepared to move and every digital lead was followed with meticulous care, the fate of Martin's narrative hung in the balance. The end of his twisted storyline was near, and with it, the hope that a semblance of peace could finally be restored. In a world where identities could be faked and trust could be betrayed, the courage and tenacity of those left behind shone as a beacon, a reminder that justice, though often delayed, was inevitable. Thus, as the sun set over Genoa City, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, the final act of this harrowing drama was set into motion. The stage was ready for a confrontation that would determine not only the future of those who had suffered under Martin's deception, but also the fate of a man whose carefully constructed facade was about to crumble under the weight of his misdeeds. The countdown had begun, and with each passing moment, the path to redemption and retribution became clearer. Martin's end was imminent, and no matter what secrets or allies he had hidden in the shadows, the truth was coming for him.